Hi there, it's Karen at Corrie Paper Crafts, independent Stampin' Up demonstrator in Central Scotland. Welcome back to another project, and today it's another carton style gift box, but it's slim and tall rather than square this time round. So I made this using mint macaron cardstock and some DSP from the 12x12 Gilded Autumn. Gosh, is that the right name? Yep, Gilded Autumn Specialty Designer Series paper. And if you watched Sunday's video, you'll have seen me show you the ribbon combo pack that this ribbon's from. It's a basket weave and metallic ribbon combo pack, and I used this on my card on Sunday on my Simple Sundays project. So if you've not seen it, go back and have a look. And I actually showed you the DSP as well. And it's this ribbon here. It's absolutely beautiful. I've not used it before, so I decided it was time that I did. This again, if you saw Sunday's project, you'll have seen me show you our gorgeous brushed metallic cardstock, and I've used a piece of gold this time. In Sunday's Simple Sundays project I used a piece of the bronze and a piece of the copper, and I'm using a piece of the gold today. So I'm going to show you how I made this. It's nice and easy to make. So you're going to need a piece of cardstock which measures 8 1/4 by 8 inches. Let me just get my measurements where I can see them. And in centimetres, that's 21 by 20.5. You'll need 2 pieces of cardstock measuring the same, which is 2 3/4 by 4 3/4 inches, or 7 by 12.5 centimetres. And you'll also need 2 which measure 2 3/4 by 1 1/4, and in centimetres that's 7 by 3. So let's do some scoring, and I'll try very hard not to forget some of my centimetres as I go, because I think I've got a bit of a habit of doing that. So on the 8 1/4 length, if you have A4 cardstock which measures, or if you're using cardstock which measures 8 1/2 by 11, you can actually just leave this at the 8 1/2 width, because with the 8 1/4, which is what International A4 is that we use in the UK, you've only got a 1/4 inch to join your box together, which is fine, but don't bother trimming it down if you've got 8 1/2 by 11. Leave it at leave it at the 8 1/2. So on the long side, the 8 1/4 or 8 1/2 side, you're going to score at 3, 4, oops, gosh, I keep jumping the track, 7 and 8 inches, which is 7.5, 10, 17.5 and 20 centimetres. Then turn it to the short side and score at 1 and 6, which in centimetres is 2.5 and 15.5. Then turn it over, keeping it in the same place, but just turn it over and score again at 7 1/2, which is, let me just double check, 19 centimetres. Then turn it back to the long side, and at 3 1/2 inches, just make a little score line down to that first horizontal score line there, and the same again at 7 1/2 inches, and in centimetres that is 8.75 and 18.75, and that's all the scoring done. So we'll get rid of the scoreboard without bumping the tripod, and I'll just take my bone folder. You're fortunately not going to see any of that bit where I jumped to the track, but that wasn't ideal. So fold and burnish on all your score lines. This one at the top though, you scored it the other way, so you've got to fold that the other way, like so. But the rest just fold and burnish as normal. just going to use the desk as my leverage, she said, for folding over that little 1/4 inch section. Worked perfectly off camera, but on camera, as always, doesn't go well at all. There we are. So that's all the folding done. So looking at this section here, you've got the little narrow section and this slightly wider section here. These are the top of the box, and this 1 inch section here, or 2.5 centimetre section, is the bottom. So the only cutting that we're going to do is to remove this little narrow rectangle here. So I'm just cutting straight up the score line and wedge in a little bit here, and just wedge a little bit at the top there as well. And then I'm going to cut for my flaps for joining the box together. So I'm going to keep the straight edge on the rectangle and remove the score line onto that square part and just wedge in slightly. So keeping the straight edge on the rectangles and wedging in to that square. There we are. And that's all the cutting done. So the only waste that you have from your piece of cardstock, and I like projects that don't have a lot of waste, are just all those little bits there, and that's it. So before we do anything else, I want to come back to, I'm going to need my scoring tool. I'm going to come back to these little short score lines here, and I'm going to grab my ruler, and from the bottom of this score line to the bottom corners here, I'm going to add some extra score lines. So just make sure you get right into that corner there and just line your ruler up so that your score line actually reaches the bottom of that. So you've got to allow the width of the ball on the end of your scoring tool, if that makes sense. And the same on that side, and then the same here. And one more. There we go. So now I'm going to add my pieces of designer series paper, and I'm not very sure if I told you already, this is mint macaron cardstock, and I'm using a different paper this time. Now I'm going to get brave, and I'm going to use my Stampin' Seal, she said, to put my DSP on. So wish me luck. Just make sure that it's at the sticky bit. I'll get rid of that bit. There we are. So just a couple of bits of seal on there. Make sure I've got my paper the right way round, and just pop that in the centre with an even border round. That'll do. Same for this part here, or this piece rather. And excuse me while I'm trying to lose my voice. I've filmed a few videos today, and I think it's cup of tea time, so that's where I'm going soon as I'm finished this video. So, oops, same again, some seal to add my DSP onto the panels, which will be the front and the back of my box, and actually put a little bit closer to, oops, the edge. There we go, and just make sure I centre that before I press it down, just with an even border. There we are. And that's someone at the door, please excuse me a minute. And I'm back, sorry about that. I'm just a bit out of puff now from running down the stairs and back up again. It was a delivery driver, so something that I was waiting for, which is good. Oh my goodness, I'm not fit. I am definitely not fit. So that's my seal on my DSP, and just line that up again to until I'm happy with the border round the outside, and I think that's okay. There we go. Just give that all a rub from behind, and then I'm going to add some tearing tape along this very narrow section here near that fold line. So I'm just going to overlap that a little bit just because of the angle that end is at, because I want to make sure that I've got tape right to the ends because it's such a narrow section. Not quite so bad if that's a 1/2 inch rather than just a 1/4, but if you've got a good adhesive then the 1/4 inch is fine. I'm just going to give it a really good burnish to make sure that that's well stuck, and then I'm just going to stick my box together. So take the backing off, fold over any overlap, and then you can see probably here that the tearing tape just overlaps very slightly, but if you just fold it back on itself, there's not a problem, and your box will go together perfectly with no tape sticking out. There we are. So I've just now folded that all back on itself. So fold this side over like this and bring this part over to meet it here. There we are. I probably could have lined that up a little bit better, but never mind. You get the idea. There we go, and this is the back of my box where we've got that join. So at the bottom I'm going to fold in the back flap here, and I'm actually going to add some Seal Plus to these little side flaps. So a piece here and a piece here, just like so, and then I'll just push that a bit too far in. Let me just push that back out again. So that's the back flap in first, the two side flaps over, and then just add some more Seal Plus on that front flap and fold it over, just making sure I keep the shape of my box. There we go. So I'll just take my paper folder and give that a few extra presses inside, and because I've made all these extra scores at the side here, when I push this together then the top of the carton goes together just perfectly. So I'm going to grab a little clip. This is a little retired binder clip that we had last year maybe, just to hold it together until I punch my holes for the ribbon to go through, and I'm actually going to use my crocodile. So just lining it up and making sure that that's in the middle, I'm going to punch a hole here, and then I'm going to turn it over and do exactly the same on the other side, just making sure that that's centered, and punch a hole there too. There we are. It's just a lot easier because we're going through quite a thickness of card. I'm making sure that I keep this seam at the back. I'm going to grab a piece of ribbon, this ribbon that I used on a box that I made earlier, but then realised that I hadn't done my two score lines at the side, so it didn't go together so well. In fact, I can actually show you. No, that's not it. I think I binned it. Hold on. It doesn't work so well, and what happened was once I tied my ribbon, these bowed in the way, whereas with the score lines there's not as much resistance here. So just remember that it makes it a lot easier when you do put your extra score lines in down the side. And then ribbon just through from the front, around the back and back through to the front again, and I'm just going to tie a bow, and hopefully this will work. Let me just check that that's not twisted. There we are. Hoping that that clip isn't going to make it bevel too much. I don't think it will. I don't have as much to play with though, because this was already cut for that box that's in the bin, so I'm hoping that my bow will be a success first go, which isn't looking too bad at all. It's just sliding towards me because I've got to keep it underneath the camera obviously. So if we just centre that a little bit, that'll do just now I think. And I'm just going to cut off these little frayed edges here and these little frayed edges here. There we are. That's not bad at all, especially when my ribbon was rationed. So I'm going to grab a piece of very vanilla cardstock here. Just let me get all these little bits of ribbon out of the way. And the stamp set I used for my sentiment is the Peaceful Moments cling stamp set, and it's a thank you that I used, which I've already got mounted on a block here. And I just used my black Memento ink to stamp the sentiment, so I'll stamp that about there. Just clean that off on my chamois right away so that it doesn't stain my stamp. And then I used the heart punch to punch that out, and it does fit really nicely in there. And I'm just looking for an equal distance of, or an equal amount of space at the top and the bottom, so excuse me, about there. There we are. And I used the scalloped heart punch to punch out a piece of the beautiful brushed metallic cardstock. There we are. And then using my liquid glue to give me a little bit of wiggle room to make sure that this is in the middle of the other piece. There we are. And I'm just going to use this to help me to line it up, because I'm not right over the top of my project. So if I use my grid paper, that helps me to line that part up and that part up. I've got a little bit of seepage of glue there I think, but that's okay. Then just turn it over and give it a firmer press on the back. And then I'm going to grab my champagne rhinestones, which I've used in my last couple of projects again, because I've not used them for a wee while. And using the putty end of my take-a-pick tool, I just added, oops, one of the largest sized ones just in the middle at the bottom, and then two of the smallest size up here as well. There we are, just to add an extra bit of sparkle. So I'm going to add 3 dimensionals onto the back. There we are. And add that into the centre of my box at the front. So I think about there. Just check that that's straight before I press it down. Yes, it is. And there you have it, a couple of pretty carton style gift boxes ready to pop in a few sweeties, or you would maybe get some tissues or a notebook or something like that. A notebook and a pen would fit in there just nicely. And actually this would also be a good gift box for the little Filofax notebook that I made the other day, a couple of videos ago maybe. It was a Festive Friday project. So thanks for watching. I hope you like those, and I will see you again on Friday with another Festive Friday project. So until then, take care. I'm off to have a cup of tea because I'm starting to lose my voice, so I will see you again soon. Bye bye.